The humidity clung to everything, the kind that wrapped around your skin and stayed there long after midnight. In Miami, even the dark felt hot. The lights from the street lamps along Biscayne Boulevard flickered over the hood of the car as Daniel Ruiz pulled into the driveway of his Coral Gables home, exhausted from yet another double shift at Jackson Memorial Hospital. At 1:42 a.m., the neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel stepped out of his car and instinctively paused, sensing something was off. It wasn't anything obvious. Not a noise. Not a shadow. Just a strange, weighty stillness in the air. The kind you feel in your chest before your brain catches up. He opened the front door quietly, not wanting to wake Elena. But the house was already awake. The kitchen lights were on. And Elena, his wife of 9 years, wasn't in sight. Daniel frowned and walked deeper into the kitchen, noticing the faint scent of something sweet and unfamiliar. Not perfume. Something more, exotic. A cologne. Foreign, sharp, lingering in the air like an accusation. The scent was wrong. Out of place. Not his. He looked around. 2 wine glasses rinsed but not washed properly, faint lipstick smudges on one, fingerprints on both. A plate in the sink with a small smear of something, chocolate. And a fork abandoned beside it. Elena was meticulous. She didn't leave dishes overnight. Not even after an argument. Something in Daniel tightened. He walked toward the stairs, his heartbeat quickening. Halfway up, he stopped. Footsteps. No. Just the house settling. At the bedroom door, he hesitated, his hand hovering over the knob. He suddenly didn't want to know what he'd find on the other side. Finally, he opened it. And there she was. Sleeping. Peacefully. Still in the dress she'd worn for her girls' night out, a deep red wrap dress he'd complimented before leaving for his shift. "Hey," she mumbled, waking as he stepped inside. "You're home early." "Early?" he said, glancing at the digital clock glowing in the dark. "It's almost 2. "Oh, right." She yawned. "We just hung out at Sophia's place. I got tired." Her eyes didn't quite meet his. Daniel swallowed. The scent he'd noticed downstairs was stronger here, sweet, sharp, masculine. "Everything okay?" she asked, blinking up at him. Daniel forced a smile he didn't feel. "Yeah," he said. "Just, long shift." But his chest felt heavy. And the scent in the room was definitely not his. The next morning brought bright sunlight pouring in through the bedroom blinds, slicing through the uneasy haze from the night before. The morning routine unfolded as usual, coffee brewing, the sound of the shower running, the smell of Elena's coconut hair conditioner drifting through the hallway. To an outsider, it was domestic perfection. But Daniel felt the wrongness like a knot under his ribs. Elena hummed as she moved around the kitchen, making breakfast, dressed in a lightweight teal sundress that swayed around her knees. She looked beautiful, warm brown skin kissed by the Miami sun, dark hair flowing down her back, gold earrings catching the light. He'd fallen in love with her smile a decade ago. But this morning, her smile didn't quite reach him. "So," she asked, sliding scrambled eggs onto his plate, "you work another double tonight?" "Yeah," he said. Someone called out. "Again?" She frowned. "They always do this to you." "Hospital's understaffed," he said, taking a sip of coffee. "What about you? You still going to that art studio downtown?" She nodded. "Yeah. We're preparing for the Wynwood exhibit next month." "Elena," he said slowly, choosing his words, "did you get home late last night?" Her hands froze. "Late?" "No," she said lightly, too lightly. "I think I was back before midnight." "I got home around 1, he said. Kitchen lights were on." She shrugged. "Must have forgotten to turn them off." Something in Daniel winced. She had a tell, she touched her left ear when she lied. A tiny, unconscious gesture. He saw her do it now. He didn't push her. Not yet. But a seed had been planted. And he wasn't sure he wanted to see what it would grow into. Miami had always been a city built on contrast, beauty beside danger, wealth beside struggle, loyalty beside temptation. Neon nights and sun-bleached days, beaches and back alleys, 1,000 lives colliding at all hours. Elena loved it. Daniel tolerated it. They'd met at Florida International University, she was studying fine arts, he was buried in pre-med textbooks. She loved color, movement, passion. He loved structure, certainty, stability. He thought they balanced each other. He still wanted to believe that. But over the next 2 weeks, cracks widened. Little things. Innocent on their own. Together, they formed a pattern. Elena hiding her phone more often. Leaving the room to take calls. Sudden new outfits. Nights spent working late at the studio. A cologne scent lingering in the car one morning. A half-deleted text message preview, had a great time. Daniel tried to dismiss the signs. Tried to trust her. But trust wasn't a switch you turned off or on, it eroded slowly, grain by grain. And Daniel felt erosion everywhere. One Friday evening, Daniel left work earlier than expected. A colleague had offered to cover the last 3 hours of his shift after Daniel complained of a migraine. On his drive home, the knot in his chest told him where to go instead. The art studio. Located in Wynwood, Miami's colorful graffiti-covered arts district, the building was a renovated warehouse with wide windows and bright murals stretching across the facade. Daniel pulled up quietly. He approached the door. It was locked. He peered through the window. The studio was dark. Completely empty. He checked the time, 9:14 p.m. Elena had told him she'd be here till at least 10. Daniel stepped back from the window, pulse accelerating. He called her. She didn't answer. He texted. "Everything okay?" No reply. The silence in his phone matched the silence in the empty studio. So he waited. At 9:52, a sleek black Audi pulled up 2 blocks down. A man stepped out. Tall. Well-dressed. Confident. Mid-40s. Heat rising from the pavement twisted the streetlights around him. Daniel didn't recognize him. The man walked around the corner of the building, close to the studio's side door. And then, minutes later, Elena's laughter drifted around the corner. Daniel froze. Elena appeared, stepping out from a narrow alley beside the building, hair tousled, dress rumpled, cheeks flushed. She wasn't carrying art supplies. She wasn't holding her purse properly. The man said something softly. Elena smiled, a slow, intimate smile Daniel hadn't seen in years. And then the man leaned in. Kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. A knowing one. Elena didn't pull away. She leaned into it. The world tilted around Daniel. Something inside him cracked so loudly he thought the whole street heard it. When they finally broke apart, Elena said something he couldn't hear. The man brushed her hair behind her ear like he had the right to. They walked to the Audi together. Daniel stayed hidden behind a mural and watched the car pull away. He didn't move for a long time. Didn't breathe properly. Didn't think straight. The night swallowed him whole. Daniel didn't confront her that night. He couldn't. He didn't trust his voice not to break. So he waited. Silently. Observing. Bleeding inside. Every night after, he pretended nothing was wrong. He kissed her forehead. He asked about her day. He washed dishes beside her, wondering if she'd spent her afternoon with another man's hands on her body. He lay awake beside her, listening to her breathing, wondering how she could sleep so peacefully. But cracks don't heal on their own. They widen. They split. One evening, as they sat on the couch watching a Netflix show she wasn't paying attention to, her phone lit up. "Miguel, can't stop thinking about you." Her quick reflexes failed her. Daniel saw it. When she realized he'd seen the notification, her face went pale. The room filled with the sound of Daniel's heartbeat pounding in his ears. "Elena," he said softly, "who's Miguel?" Her lips parted. But she didn't answer. She stood abruptly, almost knocking over her wine glass. "I'm going to bed," she said. "Elena." His voice was low, steady. "Stop." She froze. He stood up slowly. "Who is he?" She didn't turn around. "Elena." She inhaled sharply. Her shoulders trembled. Finally, she turned. Her eyes were wet. Her voice a whisper, "Someone I should have never met." Daniel felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. "How long?" he asked. "Daniel." "How long?" She covered her face with her hands. "A few months." His knees went weak. "A few months," he repeated. "While I was working back-to-back shifts to pay our mortgage." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for anything to happen. But it did. I was lonely," she said, voice trembling. "You were never home. You were exhausted even when you were. I felt invisible." Daniel stared at her. "Your excuses don't undo what you did." She flinched. "We were drifting apart," she whispered. "You could have talked to me." "I tried." "No," Daniel said quietly. "You gave up." And then he said the words that had been festering, burning, poisoning him since the night he saw her in the alley. "Did you love him?" Her throat bobbed. Silence. "Elena." Her voice cracked. "I don't know." The words sliced through him. He walked away before he said something he couldn't take back. The days that followed were suffocating. Elena slept in the guest room. Daniel buried himself in work, triple shifts, overnight rounds, anything to stay away from the house that no longer felt like home. They avoided each other like two ghosts living under the same roof. But reality has a way of forcing itself into the cracks. And the truth always has another layer. One morning, Daniel received an email from a law firm. From Miguel Ortiz's office. An expensive firm in Betrayal. He opened the message. And what he saw made his hands shake. It wasn't a love affair. Not just that. Miguel wasn't just some fling. He was Elena's art patron. A wealthy businessman. Married. Influential. And arrogant enough to send a cease and desist letter to Daniel accusing him of stalking Elena at the studio. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. This man had kissed his wife in an alley. Now he was threatening him. Daniel printed the letter and brought it home. When he confronted Elena, she collapsed onto the kitchen floor, sobbing. "I never wanted him to do that," she cried. "I told him not to involve you." "You told him?" Daniel whispered, horrified. "Not to involve me?" "Elena, you involved me the moment you let him into your life." She covered her face. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "No," Daniel said softly, voice breaking. "You made 1,000 of them." Silence. Broken only by the sound of her crying. He walked out of the house. He didn't come back until after midnight. When he did, he found Elena gone from the guest room. Her suitcase missing. A note left on the dining table. "Daniel. I'm sorry for everything. I need time to think and to fix the damage I've done, if it can even be fixed. But I can't stay here. Not right now. I'm going to stay with Sophia for a while. Please don't call me. Elena." He read the letter twice. Then again. He placed it back on the table. And he didn't call her. Miami's summer storms rolled in the next day, thick, heavy rain pounding against the windows, lightning splitting the sky above the city skyline. Daniel didn't go to work. He didn't do anything. Just sat in the dark living room, listening to the rain hammer the roof like the sky itself was breaking apart. That evening, around 8 p.m., someone knocked on the door. Slow, deliberate knocks. Daniel opened it. And there he was. Miguel. Standing under the rain, hair slicked back, shirt clinging to his chest. "What do you want?" Daniel said, voice cold. Miguel smirked. "Your wife." Daniel saw red. He lunged. The two men crashed into the drenched yard, fists, fury, broken pride colliding under the storm. Miami thunder cracked overhead as if cheering them on. Miguel swung wildly. Daniel, fueled by months of betrayal, fought with everything he had. They both ended up on their knees, panting, bleeding in the mud. "She loves me," Miguel spat. "No," Daniel growled. "She was running from herself." Miguel wiped his mouth. "She's leaving you." "Maybe," Daniel said. "But she'll never truly be yours." Miguel's eyes flashed with something ugly. He left without another word. Daniel stood alone in the storm, chest heaving. Lightning flickered. Thunder rumbled. And for the first time in months, something inside him felt clear. 3 days passed. Then Elena came home. She stood in the doorway looking smaller than he'd ever seen her, eyes swollen, face pale, shoulders slumped. "Daniel," she whispered. "I'm done with him." He didn't say anything. She stepped inside. "I ended it," she said. "For real?" He nodded. She hesitated. "Do you still want us?" It was the hardest question she could have asked. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman he'd loved. At the woman he no longer recognized. He shook his head once. And watched her break. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing into her hands. He closed his eyes. And whispered, "You destroyed us." 2 weeks later, they signed divorce papers. No dramatic courtroom showdown. No shouting match. No desperate last-minute apologies. Just silence. Painful. Heavy. Final. They sat in a small Betrayal law office, air-conditioned and sterile, far removed from the sweaty, passionate city outside. The attorney slid the papers across the table. Elena's hand trembled as she signed. Daniel's hand didn't. When it was done, she whispered, "I never stopped loving you." He didn't reply. Some words come too late. Miami continued moving, loud, alive, uncaring. People laughed in South Beach bars. Cars blasted reggaeton down crowded streets. Cuban bakeries filled with the smell of pastries and espresso. Life went on. Daniel moved into a condo overlooking Biscayne Bay. He worked fewer shifts. Started running again. Went to the beach at sunrise just to feel something new. One morning, he found himself standing at the edge of the water, the sun lifting over the horizon in a burst of orange and gold. The air was warm, salty, soft. He closed his eyes. Inhaled. Exhaled. And for the first time in a long time, he felt free. Months later, Daniel received a letter forwarded from their old house. It was from Elena. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Daniel. I hope you're okay. I'm trying to be. I know you may never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I want you to know something I couldn't say before. I loved you. I loved you more than anyone I've ever met. I just didn't love myself enough to stay loyal. You deserved better than the broken version of me. I hope you find someone who sees your worth from day one. Someone who'll never let go." Goodbye, Daniel. E. He folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Not out of anger. Not out of longing. But because it was a fragment of a life he'd lived through and survived. He stepped outside onto his balcony, watching boats cut across the sparkling water. Miami. Heat. Neon. Temptation. And finally, peace. The city didn't heal him. He healed himself. And the man who once walked under storms now stood beneath the sun. Alive. Stronger. Whole.